was here a second ago. Mr. Speaker.
Members, the House is resumed. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, the committee has considered the Telecommunications Development Levy Amendment Bill and reports it without amendment. Mr. Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The Telecommunications Development Levy Amendment Bill is set down for third reading forthwith.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Amy Adams.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Telecommunications Development Levy Amendment Bill be now read a third time. As we've heard in this debate, fast and reliable connectivity is critical to New Zealand's economic growth. Like running water or electricity, connectivity has become a fundamental must-have service for homes and businesses. The Telecommunications Development Levy Amendment Bill, we should have given it a catchier name, highlights the government's commitment to extending enhanced connectivity to regional New Zealand. It will help us to deliver faster, more reliable connectivity to the regions. Mr. Speaker, I would have thought that it's hard to argue against better connectivity for our rural and remote communities, but there have been a number of MPs across the other side of the House, Labour MPs, who I believe are putting politics ahead of people. I can't wait to be out on the stump in 2017 reminding rural New Zealand that Labour campaigned against them getting better broadband. They are the only party in the House opposing this bill, and I find their position astonishing. They are showing tonight they would rather side with the telco executives and their profits than support the extension of broadband to communities that need it. No wonder they can't win in regional New Zealand. No wonder they're so out of touch. No wonder they're bottoming out in the polls. They can't even bring themselves to support better broadband for regional growth in rural and provincial New Zealanders who desperately need it. It annoys them so much to see a government program that's succeeding, they will cut off their nose to spite their face. Right. And of course they can't filibuster if they're voting in favour, which is what we know they're really all about. Mr. Speaker, there has been some confusion from the benches opposite, so let me set out some things very clearly. Opposition members who are opposing extension of the RBI are opposing basic principles of ensuring our most rural areas have the same opportunities that faster broadband offers our cities, and we don't support that. Opposing this extension is refusing rural New Zealanders the same connectivity that other parts of New Zealand enjoy. Labour will tell us, or has been telling us through this debate, that uptake of the RBI program is low, but they're cherry-picking the numbers and they know it. We know that 8,500 people have signed up under the fixed wireless broadband program, but that's only 20% of RBI1 spend. Furthermore, they're completely ignoring that one of the core benefits of that part of the spend is enhancing cell phone connectivity, and the cell phone connectivity benefits of those RBI towers mean that nearly 2 million New Zealanders every quarter get benefit from it. The other 80% of the program is fixed-line copper broadband. As at the 31st of March, more than 85,000 households are able to connect, and almost 68,000 households have. That's an uptake rate of 80%. That doesn't even begin to cover the service provision to rural hospitals, rural health centres and rural schools. This is the program Labour try to tell you isn't working and is failing. If that's the definition of failure, they haven't got a clue. Mr. Speaker, we've also heard that this is some sort of new tax. Well, I can tell you, it isn't a tax, and it sure the heck isn't new.
That's right.
Taxes, for those who don't know, are a broad-based application. Levies are targeted and they're used for specific targeted purposes. In this case, the TDL, which has been in force since 2011, replacing the TSO, which had been in force even longer and was higher, and of course we announced these changes in August. In this case, it's a levy charged against some of the large telecommunications companies used to fund open access infrastructure in areas that otherwise it wouldn't be commercially viable for it to be built. Someone has to pay for it, and I don't believe it's fair that taxpayers should foot the bill for infrastructure that the telcos use to provide their commercial services. Yeah. The levy is user pays, and that's exactly how it should be. Mr. Speaker, The government's rural broadband program reflects our commitment to rural communities. We're working with our private sector partners to provide services and coverage that wouldn't otherwise be feasible. By 2016, 90% of New Zealanders in areas not covered by UFB will have access to rural broadband under RBI 1. The $150 million raised from this levy extension will be put specifically towards extending the rural broadband initiative, so almost all Kiwis benefit from better connectivity under the national government. That's $100 million for expanding fast, reliable broadband to the regions, and a further $50 million to expand mobile network coverage in black spots. Mr. Speaker, the RBI is making an immense difference to the way rural firms do business, the way our kids learn in rural remote schools, and the way health services are delivered to their patients. There does, however, remain a level of high unmet demand in rural areas which are not scheduled to receive upgrades under the original RBI. This is due to increased numbers of customers, high download demand constrained by existing cabinet technology and backhaul limitation. This bill is about letting us get on with making funding available for communities to improve their connectivity with a $100 million contestable fund to extend broadband in our regions. The criteria for the fund will focus on enhancing connectivity across all areas outside the UFB footprint and is open-minded about the range of technologies that will be used. This bill means better connectivity for more people. Mr. Speaker, mobile phone coverage is an essential form of connectivity and can be even more important in rural and remote New Zealand, where it has benefits for public safety as well as the potential to grow productivity in our regions. Collectively, Spark, Vodafone and 2 Degrees networks currently claim to provide mobile access to approximately 97% of New Zealand premises. However, those existing mobile networks achieve less than 50% geographic coverage of New Zealand. There remain many rural and remote areas of New Zealand that would benefit from extended coverage, such as sections of state highways and remote tourist areas. The benefits of expanded mobile coverage include, of course, improved communications for businesses and residents who live and work in those areas, improved public safety, particularly on our state highways, and making our tourism destinations more attractive, particularly in some of those smaller communities. As a result, this government is establishing a $50 million contestable fund with the aim of providing mobile emergency calling, voice and contemporary data service coverage. The fund will enable companies and communities to nominate their black spots in key tourist areas and work together to make a case for funding. Mr. Speaker, let me also confirm that none of the money from this contestable fund will enable any company to satisfy their existing obligations to provide coverage. Mr. Speaker, rural connectivity is absolutely critical, and everyone agrees on that in this House except for Labor. Everyone in this House agrees on that except for Labor. And can I thank New Zealand First, the Greens, the Māori Party, United Future and ACT for their constructive approach and recognising that actually we do need to get on at pace rolling out broadband to our rural communities. Someone has to pay, and it's appropriate that that should fall on the telcos. Thank those parties for recognising that this tax has been in place for a long time. It is a matter of sense on each bill, and if any telco argues that they need to put their prices up as a result, then their consumers should look long and hard at those claims, because I do not believe that they stack up. This is a government that's fulfilling its promises to regional New Zealand. This is a government that knows that connectivity is the core plank for regional economic growth. This is the government that's delivering it. I'm proud to commend it to the House.